Fresh bread, fresh bread. Freshly baked bread. Look, everyone. Bread girl has fallen again.
You should probably stay with your bread business instead of coming to school.
Every morning, before the sun fully woke Enugu from mid-sleep, Ngozi woke first. By 4:30 a.m., she was kneading dough in her mother's small kitchen. The smell of yeast mixing with the sound of her mother's weak, persistent cough from the next room. Her mother, Mama Chinwe, had been sick for 2 years. The kind of sickness that ate slowly, quietly, refusing to either kill or release her. Hospital bills piled up like unpaid debt to fat itself. Ngozi's school fees depended entirely on the bread she sold before classes began. So she hawked, tray balanced on her head, voice calling out to early risers, school bag swinging against her hip. Then she rushed to change her uniform behind a kiosk before the money bell rang. By the time she sat on her desk, her arms ached, her feet were dusty, and her mind was already calculating how many loaves were left unsold. Nobody at school knew the full weight of her monies until they did, and once they knew, they never let her forget it. Adaeze was different. Adaeze's father owned 3 event centers in Enugu, and Adaeze wore that wealth like a crown she expected everyone to bow to.
Look at her.
She didn't just
to be
mock
so
Ngozi,
innocent.
she performed it. A daily
She
show
looks
for the
absolutely
class,
ridiculous,
with
doesn't
Ngozi
she?
as the unwilling main character. How much is bread today? Abi, you go give us this count since na your specialty? Adaeze would ask, and the class would erupt. Ngozi sat at the back, silent, gripping her pen so tightly her knuckles ached. She wanted to disappear into class wall, to become invisible, to stop existing at the punchline of someone else's joke. But there was something Adaeze didn't know, something Ngozi herself didn't fully understand yet. Their 2 families were already connected long before either girl was born. One evening, Mama Chinwe called Ngozi to her bedside, her voice barely above a whisper. There was a woman, she said, who helped me when nobody else would, years ago before you were born. Ngozi leaned closer. Curiosity tightened in her chest. She gave me money for your elder brother's burial, Mama Chinwe continued, eyes distant with memory. A stranger I never knew her full name, just Mrs. Okafor. Ngozi's blood went cold. Okafor, Adaeze's surname. She came to me crying herself. Mama Chinwe added weakly. She said she understood loss, said money could not heal grief, but it could at least bury it with dignity. Adaeze sat frozen, trying to imagine kindness wearing the same name as her mentor. Before she could ask more, her mother's coughing fits returned violent and frightening, and the conversation died there. It would be years before Ngozi understood what that name truly meant, and how strangely woven her pain and her purpose really were. The bullying didn't stop. If anything, it grew sharper with each passing term. Ngozi failed 2 tests that year, not from a lack of intelligence, but from exhaustion that sat permanently behind her eyes. Her bread money sometimes wasn't enough. Some mornings she sold nothing at all, and walking to school with an empty stomach and a heavy heart. One particular Monday, Adaeze accidentally knocked her tray clean off her head in front of the school gates. Bread scattered in the ground. Ngozi's only income for the day ruined in seconds. She didn't scream. She didn't fight. She simply knelt down again and began to gather what little wasn't completely soiled. Adaeze watched, laughing with her friends, completely unaware that this single act of cruelty would one day stand between her and her own survival. That night, Ngozi cried for the first time for long, not from the bread, but from the silence of having no one to defend her. She whispered to herself, "One day, nobody will laugh at me again." She didn't know yet how true those words would become. 2 years later, Ngozi's mother passed away. Ngozi was 17, alone with her 2 younger siblings depending on her, and a recipe, her mother's secret bread recipe, as the only inheritance she had left. The funeral was small, quiet, no event center, no caterers, no crowd of mourners in expensive lanes. Just Ngozi, her siblings, and a handful of neighbors who brought rice and condolences they couldn't truly afford either. She dropped out of school after that term to work as a bakery assistant in Onitsha, sleeping on a mat in the storeroom, sending every spare naira home. Many nights, she nearly gave up. Many nights, she remembered the laughter at the school gates and asked herself one dangerous question. What if they were right about me? But something inside her refused to accept that as her final answer. Something stubborn, something her mother has planted long before she died. By 23, Ngozi had saved enough to register a small bread business, Chinwe's Pride, named after her mother. It started in one room, one oven, one recipe, sold strictly door to door because no shop would store an unknown bread. For 3 years, growth came in painfully small steps. One new buyer here, one small contract there, countless rejected loan applications, countless nights she questioned everything. There were months she couldn't pay her own siblings' school fees. Months she ate just 1 meal a day so the business wouldn't collapse. A particular cruel year nearly buried her completely, when a supplier disappeared with half her capital, leaving her in silent debt for nearly 8 months. She almost closed the bakery shop for good. She stood in front of that one small oven and cried the way she had cried as a teenager kneeling in school dust. But she remembered her mother's voice. Bread feeds people, Ngozi. Never feel ashamed of feeding people. So she stayed. She rebuilt slowly. Then a supermarket chain in Enugu agreed to a trial order. The bread sold out in 2 days. Word spread fast. Within a year, Chinwe's Pride had grown from one oven to a full production facility, and the company began hiring. Nobody who walked through those gates as employees knew the woman who built it from scratch, kneeling year after year, refusing to stay down. 8 years after that humiliating morning at school gates, Ngozi sat behind a glass office door, reviewing final interview file from an operations manager position. Her assistant slid a folder across the table. "Madam, your next candidate is ready." Ngozi opened it. Her hand froze on the page. Adaeze Okafor. Same surname her mother had whispered about years ago. Same face, slightly older now, slightly tired. The confidence from childhood replaced with something heavier. Ngozi's heart pounded. Should she recognize her? Should she pretend not to know? For a moment, every humiliating morning came rushing back. The laughter, the scattered bread, the silent tears nobody saw. She took a slow breath and caught her air. Adaeze walked in nervously, clutching a folder of certificates, unemployment having humbled her in ways money once shielded her from. Her father's business had collapsed years earlier. The crown she once wore so proudly had quietly crumbled. pieces by pieces, until she was just an undergraduate hunting for work like everyone else. She didn't recognize the woman across the desk. Why would she? That girl with the bread tray had long disappeared from her memory. "Good afternoon, ma," Adeze said, voice shaking slightly. "Thank you for this opportunity." Ngozi studied her quietly. Years of pain, mockery, and hunger sat right there in front of her, completely unaware. This was her moment. She could destroy her, end the interview in seconds. Let revenge finally taste sweet after all these years. Instead, she asked one quiet question. "Do you remember a girl who used to sell bread before school at Queen's Comprehensive?" Adeze's face went pale. Yes," Adeze stammered. "We call her Bread Girl. I wasn't kind to her." "Why?" Ngozi asked. Adeze opened her mouth, closed it, then finally whispered, "I don't know. I think I wanted to feel powerful. My parents were already fighting about money behind closed doors. Laughing at her made me forget my problems." For the first time, Ngozi saw something human behind the old cruelty. Not an excuse, but a crack in the crown Adeze once wore so proudly. "I've thought about her sometimes," Adeze admitted, eyes lowering. "Wondered what happened to her, whether she's okay. That girl," Ngozi said slowly, "built this company." Adeze's hand began to shake. You are her?" Adeze's voice cracked completely. Ngozi nodded once. The silence between them stretched painfully long. Adeze stood up immediately. "I am so sorry. I am sorry. So sorry. I don't know that." "Sit down," Ngozi said gently, not coldly. There was no shouting, no dramatic confrontation, just two grown women finally face to face with a truth that had waited 8 long years to surface. "I'm not going to deny you this job because of what happened in secondary school," Ngozi said. "But I have one condition before you start." Adeze looked up, eyes wet, bracing herself. "You will spend 1 full week," Ngozi said, "waking up at 4 a.m., baking bread and selling it on the streets before you step into any office here." Adeze nodded immediately, tears finally falling. "I will do it. I deserve that and more." "That isn't punishment," Ngozi added softly. "It's understanding. You mocked the struggle you never had to survive. I wanted you to know what it actually costs." For the first time in her life, Adeze felt something she had never offered anyone back then. True humanity. She took the bread tray the following Monday with hands that trembled, not from cold, but from finally understanding. The first morning nearly broke her. Her shoulders ached by 6 a.m. Customers argued prices she didn't understand. One woman scolded her for being so slow. By the third day, Adeze stopped seeing it as punishment. She started seeing the people who bought bread before sunrise, tired traders, struggling mothers, students like the girl she once mocked. She thought every laugh she had thrown at Ngozi and finally understood what those mornings had truly cost her. By the end of that week, something inside Adeze had quietly broken and rebuilt itself. She returned to Ngozi's office, not as the girl who once ruled the classroom, but as someone who finally understood the weight other people silently carried. "Thank you," she said simply, "not for the job, for the lesson." Ngozi smiled, not in victory, but in peace. The bread that once brought her shame had become the very thing that gave her power, purpose, and the strength to forgive. She thought about her mother's word about kindness from a stranger named Okafor and wondered quietly if forgiveness was simply life finding its way back to balance. Sometimes The people we look down on today are standing on the very road that will lead them above us tomorrow. The hustle someone is ashamed to be seen on doing might be the very thing building their future, one humiliating morning at a time. Never mock someone's struggle because you do not know what silent battle they are fighting behind it. The girl selling bread, the boy washing car, the woman hawking pure water in traffic, all of them are paying a price you cannot see for a future you cannot yet imagine. And to anyone watching this who feels like this struggling girl right now, tired, unseen, laughed at, underestimated, your current chapter is not your final chapter. Hold on, keep building quietly. True strength is not found in revenge, but in the grace to forgive those who once mocked you, and the wisdom to teach them instead of destroying them. Because in the end, the loudest laughter never build anything, but the quiet, humiliated hustle, given enough time, can build an empire. If this story moved you, imagine what your own quiet struggle might be building right now. Keep going. Nobody hawks bread forever. Thank you for watching till the end. If you are new here, welcome. Please subscribe and turn on the notification bell as we bring you stories like this every week. And if you are already part of the family, welcome back. I would love to hear your thoughts on the story in the comment section. Bye bye for now.